Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do, because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Melba toast.
I need some deodorant. Anita.
That's just you. I'm good at wearing deodorant.
Okay. What's happening this week for you?
Guess what next week is?
What?
Camp Widow.
Oh, I'm going to that.
Me too. You want to go together?
Yeah, should we wear our widow shirts on the plane?
Yes, totally. Let's wear our widow shirts. We're excited to meet some new friends in person, and we're also sad that a lot of you are not able to come. Boo, but that's life.
We get it. For those that are coming to Camp Widow, we would love to share a taco with you, so please come find us.
And we're going to try and find a way to share. We'll do some Instagram lives while we're at Camp Widow so we can help share the experience for those who aren't able to come. More details about that in the future.
Now, Anita, I know that you had a race today, right?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Did your kids go?
Yes, they made me sign up and I was so grumpy about it. I was being really pissy about it because it was expensive. And I love to run. We all know that. But I do not love to run with people who are whining about running. And then today was forecasted to be very rainy and very cold. So I was like, this is the recipe for a ridiculous amount of fun. But guess what I did, Mel?
What?
We started running and they just ran away from me. Because little kids do that. They sprint. They're like, ah! And they don't realize that they have to keep going for a long time. So I got into my pace and then I just passed them. And I didn't wait for them. I just ran without them.
Did they get?
And I had a great time.
Oh, good. I'm glad it worked out for everybody.
Yeah, and actually they did a really good job. They ran the whole time too and made it in not bad times. So
awesome. Well, today was the start of indoor tennis season at the place where my dad and I play seasonally. And yeah, we had the discussion that he wants to be on your volleyball team. I don't know how we got on that at tennis, but I just thought you needed to know that. And my dad, he's turning 74 this week, but he's a great setter. So yeah, can you accommodate him?
We're going to have to get him a wig because he's baldish. and maybe some makeup, and then I think you'll totally pass.
Perfect.
As a woman. We've already come up with his name. He is Jemima.
Jemima Shore. It's true.
Yeah, his name's Jim, so.
I've been trying to be better about exercising now that ski season is looming.
It snowed like a foot in the mountains today.
Yeah, and one thing that, of course, super went away when Scott died, and because I had my car accident, was exercise. So I'm noticing some progress and improvement in my mentality, I guess, around it. So I know that you're really good about it all the time, but for me, these are kind of like baby steps. So if any of you are doing some exercise or thinking about exercise, or you don't want to exercise, we want to hear what your journey is like. So tell us in the Widow Wives Club.
And I should tell you all that you should exercise. There's so many benefits, you guys. It's ridiculous. It does all the good things. It floods your brain with the happy, feel-good chemicals, the endorphins. It changes the number of receptors for all of those. It's almost as effective, well, it's equally effective to an antidepressant, to a low-dose antidepressant.
So the thing that's so funny about it, I mean, and even not going through a death, it's like you don't feel like doing it. You just, if you're sitting down, sometimes you just feel like you want to keep sitting down. I do too. My dad and I were talking about this today too. I was like, Dad, you need to be stretching. You need to do more things because you're 74. Like, you could modify it for your age. And he's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, but you're going to be like comfortable sitting on the couch, because I'm comfortable sitting on the couch and I'm only 39. And so we're trying to I was trying to pep talk, and I don't think it really worked.
Nah.
But he's like, yeah, well, that's inertia. Like, whatever is in motion stays in motion. So I'm like, well, we all know that exercise is good for us. It's just a matter of doing it, which is kind of the hard part sometimes, right?
I don't like to make myself start moving either. The only reason I do it is because I have enough of a track record that I know I'll feel better when I'm done. So I have a hard time making myself go a lot.
You have a track record, pun intended, or no pun intended?
No pun intended, but in hindsight, wish pun was intended.
I did some strange things this week, atypical for me. One was learning how to skateboard, which one does not learn in one day. And so I did that one day, and then I played racquetball.
You're changing it up.
I'm just doing it. Yeah, I'm kind of trying an experiment to try and find stuff that's sort of fun, because...
That's great, because novel experiences are good for the brain.
Yeah. I'm sorry, though, I'm never going to ride with you.
It's okay.
But I will ride my bike behind you.
We had our Zoom meetings today, so that's always fun.
Special thanks to Dennis Brazo, who taught us all how to fold a fitted sheet.
Guess what? I already knew that technique, and it just is too hard. I kind of do.
You just suck at it?
I do a modified of that technique. I kind of put the corners in there, and then I just kind of roll it into a ball. So
I just only have one set.
Yeah. So
and then I wash it.
That makes sense,
Then I put it back on the bed. Yeah. Problem solved. It was so fun seeing all of our friends from all over the world. We really enjoyed talking to you. If you are not a member of our Widow Wives Club yet, make sure that you join on Facebook, search for Widow Wives Club, and submit the information. If you do not check all the boxes, Anita will be very mad. She will come and find you and hunt you down. But it's a great place to find community.
Did anybody else have difficulties when Facebook went offline for a whole day?
Oh. Okay, I didn't even know it went off, and I'm kind of proud of myself that I was not that attached to social media.
I thought it was just my phone, and I was like, what is this? And that was a day that we had posted something on Instagram that I was like, I need to respond to the comments, and it wasn't working, and I'm like, what is the matter? Why? But then when I figured out it was offline, it made me feel better. If you are interested in keeping the podcast alive and well, then consider joining our Patreon. Patreon is a website that allows listeners to support podcasts and other content creators. It's patreon.com/WWDN. I forgot what I was talking about mid-sentence.
One of the benefits of joining Patreon is you get access to 4 tiers, 4 levels of support. The Widow Bestie level and up gets you a shout out in episode, which we are going to do right now.
We're going to start with our dead secret dead husband. And to her we say, another Saturday night and I ain't got nobody. But I don't have any money either.
Next is Constance Dahlbeck.
David Kelly.
Don Satterwhite.
Gail Paxton.
Ivan the Misner.
Cat.
Krista, wait.
I was like, why? Our new dead husband, Sam Finlayson. Is that how you say it, Sam? Let us know.
Next, onto our widow wives. Amy
Sapp.
Ashley Han.
Christina Shiflett.
Danielle Katterberg.
Not a Debbie Downer.
Fitted Sheep. Dennis Brazo.
Jenny Taylor.
Fur Brown.
Jenny Wang.
Kathy Murray. Way to fix the fridge.
Spooky, scary, Kirsten Stromberg.
Leslie Webb.
Missy Schubert.
Rachel Barbosa.
Ooh. Sarah Morris.
My mom, the Sylvia.
Karen Cornejo from Canada.
Vicky with the amazing turquoise hair, Spit, the widow of Kirchhoff, and all of the animals.
Anna Tracy.
Christina Scambato.
Congrats, Christina.
Coach Christina.
Christine Anderson.
Cindy Raynaud.
Mindy Holmgren.
Don Barber.
Debbie Fells.
Diana Becker.
Emily Thornton.
Emily Toledo, see you soon.
Aaron Posick.
Gabe Lozano.
Ian Sini.
Ileana Bell.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. Jackie, who's in the happiest place on earth.
Anita's mom, who's probably going to be babysitting some of Anita's kids and will not be on the happiest place on earth. Oh, she's not babysitting. Okay, next is
Jenny Barrow.
Jocelyn Milo.
Joy Kirsch.
Julie Stevenson.
Karina Jacobo.
Katie Radcliffe.
Kara Skera.
Lori Farrington. Our aunt,
Marie Hoffman.
That we will see soon. Marjorie Lewis.
Mary McGowan.
Peter Rukavina.
Sarah Kennedy.
Woohoo! Shannon Helm.
I'm jealous of you right now, Shannon. She's at Cookie Con.
Why? Oh. Tammy Schwartz.
Wait, Sunshine Haven.
Tara Wallace.
Val Pecker.
With the cool socks. And
last but not least, we have Fluorescent Light Bulb Wendy.
Ooh. Is it an energy saver or not?
It's the old kind with the mercury in it that if you break, you're supposed to die.
Oh, it's poisonous. So yeah, poisonous Wendy.
Poisonous. Pokey, broken glass Wendy.
Thanks to everybody who supports us on Patreon. And again, if you would like to join and help the podcast continue to be available, please consider checking out patreon.com/WWDN. If you don't want to do that, but you're hungry and you want us to eat tacos to fill your hunger void.
Because that makes sense.
Shh, just go.
Go to buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now. It's our taco fund.
And special announcement. On our website, widowwedonow.com, now available are locations and facilitator contact info for in-person meetups. Get on the website, find the tabs, find your area, and click on the contact link, and it will be submitted to whoever is in charge of your area. And from there, they will be in charge of helping facilitate the hangs. We're excited for this, and thanks to everybody who's reached out to be a facilitator. If you are interested in facilitating and you do not see your area on the site, or if you would like to help existing facilitators that are in your area, please email us at widowwedonow@gmail.com.
So we hope it will be a great resource for you, but be patient as we're trying to figure out the ins and outs of how this will work.
Yep, beta testing everything, just like we're beta testing our lives. Like all of y'all.
Yeah. Should we get to the episode, Maleficent? Let's do it.
I think so.
Okay. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two young widows on the verge of being presenters at a major conference.
For widows.
For widows.
Which
is
only
not.
widows know about.
And we're all just trying to figure out, widow, we do know. Da, 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 da.
This episode is sponsored by the Misner Family Foundation in memory of Elisabeth Misner. Anita.
Yes, Mel.
We have two fabulous guests today.
I love it.
And I don't know much about them. I need you to tell me everything.
Okay, one is a Pisces and one is a Virgo. Was I close?
You were so close. You got that 50%.
Which one's right?
I'm a Pisces.
Yes. Okay. We have with us today Michelle and Carling. And Michelle and Carling are our friends from where?
From Canada.
What part?
We're from Alberta, Canada, the Rockies.
Oh, man.
Yay!
We have lots of Canadian friends, so we're excited to have you with us today. And Michelle and Carling have their very own podcast. Tell us what it's called.
Yeah, so our podcast, I'm like looking at Michelle, I'm like, are you going to go? Our podcast is called I Did Not Sign Up for This. And so we started it because we both have some trauma stories of things we didn't sign up for. And we just decided there's got to be more people like us out there. And so we interview everyday people with wild stories of things they didn't sign up for.
Which is like the whole human race, kind of.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Yeah, everybody's got
very
something.
broad.
Yeah, do you feel like as you go along in life, you're like, oh, wow, everybody has huge stuff?
Yeah. And the more we tell people, they're like, ooh, and then they just go off onto whatever they didn't sign up for.
It just kind of makes everyone relate to each other, right? Like that everyone's had trauma, and your trauma doesn't like diminish anyone else's trauma. It's just, we're all in it together. Like, it's just kind of crazy.
I found these two. I don't remember how I found them, but I remember listening to one of their podcasts, and Michelle, I don't even remember the details. I just remember the feeling. You were telling a story about one of your kids, and it was like bedtime, and you told them something really horrible, like they better go to bed or they would get like kidnapped by aliens or something. And I don't think that's really what you said, but you were feeling all bad about it. And I was like, this is a woman who understands the desperation.
My daughter was driving me crazy, and she has really high anxiety, and sometimes it just gets to be like too much. Like I can't keep reassuring her constantly, like, and I get burnt out by it. And it's probably not the right way to go about it, but I was putting her to bed, and we set a timer on Google, like, and so I snuggle them for like a minute, and then when the timer goes off, like, then I go to the next kid, right? So we set a timer, and Google made like a different noise. And she's like, what is that? What was that noise? I'm like, it's just Google. She's like, but it was different. Like, why is it different? This is so bad. And I was like, it's Google's murder mode. And it means that it's gonna, it's gonna like wake up in the middle of the night. And oh my God, it was so bad. And she was like crying, and I'm like, I'm such a cow. But I was just so over it. I'm like, it is bedtime. I am done for the day. Like, I'm done being a parent. Like, just go to bed. So,
well, just so you know, that's what connected the two of us. You're telling this story about how you're a horrible parent. I was like, yes, she knows.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was pure desperation for sure.
So you guys, when did you start your podcast, and how did you connect about it?
We started our podcast in March 2020, beginning of the pandemic. We actually had the idea to start the podcast earlier. after my husband passed away, like Carling and I have been best friends for 20 years since high school. So after my husband passed away, we were trying to find something to do together. Full disclosure, trying to find something to make some money because I'm a widow and, you know, that money wasn't coming in. It's not with the podcast at all, but we thought that.
Yeah, making money off a podcast is a long game and hard.
We're in it for the long game.
We are. So yeah, we're talking about true crime, and then we're like, true crime is so saturated, and they talk about the same things and the same cases. And then one day Carling just texted me and she was like, I did not sign up for this. Like, we did not sign up for these lives. Like, this is what our podcast needs to be about. And yeah, we just decided to talk to everyday people and kind of listen to their stories. And then it's like, how did you get through it? What did you learn? What did you know, yes, it was hard and everything sucks, but look at you now kind of thing. So yeah, we've just been doing it for over a year and we love it.
So can we go back a little ways and get your stories and
Absolutely.
Find out a little bit about what you didn't sign up for? Who wants to go first?
Tell us about the trauma.
I know. Oh man. And I should also just add to that, we also laugh a lot through our trauma. Like the jokes that we make are probably so inappropriate, but it's like what gets us through. So we often use laughter when we're interviewing people. Just kind of like, I don't know, if you're not laughing, you're probably crying. And
you can laugh and cry at the same time.
That's true.
I mean, I was laughing, like joking around with people, like at my husband's funeral, which sounds so morbid, but like, it wasn't anything like about him dying, but it was like, we were able to still like joke around and have fun. Yeah. Because that otherwise, and that's how me and my husband were together. So otherwise it just would have been brutal, like unbearable.
Well, it sounds like you're in the right place because that is how we are. And that's why we started our podcast too. So make all the dark jokes. We are here for it. Carling, will you tell us about your trauma?
My like big story is that I like came out at 14 as a lesbian. And then my parents were like, no, that's not right. And they like put me back in the closet and put me in a Catholic school. And then I was like, oh, okay, that was fun. And then I married a man, but I didn't just marry like any man. I picked the worst one possible. I went, if like you're going to go big, go big or go home. So I found like a narcissistic, abusive sociopath with antisocial personality disorder. And I didn't know that he had spent time in a federal penitentiary. Like he just forgot to put that on his dating profile.
Was this Ted Kaczynski?
No, but they're probably related.
He probably
somehow.
read Ted's manifesto.
Probably, and was like, I need to live this. Yeah. And so I found out after I left him, after I like left the abusive marriage, that he had spent time in a federal penitentiary for stalking and harassing women. And then proceeded for like the next 8 years after that to stalk and harass me. And then I had to I didn't go to jail. He went to jail. There were days. And then I had to go through the whole court process and all the charges. And then he went to jail. And then like through all of that, I was like, oh yeah, remember that time I was a lesbian? And then I like dove into that and like, now I've realized like I'm super gay and I just am living my best life.
I loved you saying that your parents put you back in the closet because that like put a visual in my head. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like shove. Like when you're trying to stick all the crap in the closet and then you like just close the door really quick and you can't open it back up or everything will fall out.
Yeah. Oh, it was the late 90s. I was like ready to like come out with my flags and they were like, no. And they just like put me back in right away.
Okay. Do you guys remember that movie with that girl who was a robot who lived in the closet?
Small wonder.
And was her battery like in her back? Yeah.
Yes.
That's
okay.
you,
that was
sort of.
Had nothing to do with anything.
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gosh, that sounds fun.
It sounds colorful and festive, and you have a lot of things. So you have all the stories.
Yeah, there's a lot, but that's like, that's the big one. And now I'm just like the friendly best friend lesbian that helps Michelle.
So Michelle, your trauma, go.
So I met my husband, Anthony, in high school. We were best friends all through high school. We didn't date. Didn't date until after. And I knew I was going to marry him when I met him, like the moment I met him. And it took him a little bit longer to realize that I'm amazing. And we got married when we were 23, so super young. Feels super young now, but you guys live in Utah, so that's not very young in Utah.
Yeah, my first marriage ended at 23.
Oh my God.
So we got married, we got pregnant immediately, like on our honeymoon, and had our first baby. And then just typical, first parent life. And we wanted lots of kids. We always wanted to have a big family. And we got pregnant again. Unfortunately, we lost that baby at about 18 weeks. So that was really traumatic. But the way that we always dealt with our trauma was with like laughter. We always watched, silly shows. Like we'd watch Arrested Development or The Office or things like that. And so we would quote just the funniest lines from that just to make each other laugh all the time in kind of the worst situations. And then we got pregnant again with our daughter. And then after that, we had 2 more miscarriages and then got pregnant again with our next daughter. And then our 4th pregnancy ended up being twins. So
always.
Yeah. Never go for the 4th.
Never.
So that was a shock. I mean, I found out I was pregnant like super early. I didn't think that I was. And then I took a test and like, I've never seen 2 darker lines on a test in my life. It was like, you are so freaking pregnant. Like, so that should have been my first indication that it was, more than just 1 baby. And I was starving. And so I went for a 7-week ultrasound because of my losses, we would just go as early as we could. And he didn't come with me, and which was fine because I was like, it's just a 7-week ultrasound, like no big deal. I mean, in hindsight, he should have come because I've had a lot of bad news in ultrasounds, and I was having like a panic attack in the waiting room because I'm like, this is just going to be bad, So I get in there and they put the little thing on my belly, and I immediately saw 2 like sacs, and I was like, holy crap. But they didn't say anything, and they're just like measuring and going about their business and all this stuff. And then it was a student, and so finally her teacher came in and was like, okay, just label that one A and that one B. And I was like, so it's twins? And he's like, yeah, she didn't tell you. And I was like, no. And it was this whole dramatic thing. And the night before, I had said to my husband, I said, what are you going to do if I phone you and it's twins? And he's like, I'm just going to laugh. And I was like, okay. And we just kind of laughed it off because I had no idea. And so then it was taking a long time because I'm like, you need to give me photographic proof that there's 2.
You sure that ultrasound is from my belly?
I'm like, he's not going to believe me. Like, I need to see the evidence. So he's texting me. He's like, are you okay? Like, what's taking so long? I'm like, don't worry. Like, I'll phone you. And so I phoned him, and the first thing I said was, are you ready to laugh? And he was just like, no, there's no way. And I was like, yeah. So that just began the craziness. He was a drywall taper, so he worked a lot, and he had his own business. He was gone a lot, and I was home with the kids a lot. I was a stay-at-home mom. After we had the twins, we wanted to move kind of out of the city to an acreage, and it took us about a year, but we found something about an hour and a half away from all of our friends and family. Because, when you have 5 children, that's the first thing you want to do is move far away from all your help. But we moved and we loved it. We were on an acreage, and it was our dream place. And we were really happy. And it was a year and a half that we lived there, and then he died, and it was just awful. It just turned into, I want to stay here, but I can't stay here by myself. We're too far away from everybody. And this is a place that he loved, and he was so happy, and we were so happy as a family. And yeah, it just turned bad really quickly.
So how long ago was this, and how old were your kids when your husband died?
So it was in 2019. It was March 2019. My twins had just turned 2. And then I had a 4-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
That's too many kids.
Definitely.
And too close together.
Yeah, like too many kids, even with 2 parents, right? Like it was, and we were a really good team. My husband was an incredible dad. My kids were so lucky to have him, and our marriage wasn't perfect. Of course, we fought and we would bicker, and there are so many things now when I think about all the little fights that we would have about stupid things that I wish that we never had, because it just felt like such a waste of time. But you can only understand those things now after something, terrible has happened. So going from this team to me grieving, that my kids grieving, we had to move. Like, it was just a mess. It was a mess. But Carling came to my rescue. She dropped everything the night that he died and drove an hour and a half to my house. She had never been there, in the dark on country roads trying to find me. And she just came, and the next day we packed up everything and drove to the city to just be with our family and plan a funeral and do all those terrible things that you have to do when someone dies. And, had to tell my kids, and it was just really confusing and really out of the blue, really sudden. So,
Carling, did your previous trauma prepare you for helping Michelle with this trauma in any way?
I think it's like a little bit layered, because I think, Michelle was there for me during my trauma. When I was like leaving my ex, who we call Chad, that's not his real name. She helped me like find evidence for the police. That like she was just there for me a lot, and we had been friends for so long that I think it was just like instinctual. And I think because of my different types of traumas, I just go into like survival mode, and I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do, and I just get like there's lists and there's. We just got it done.
So I'm curious how you found out, Carling, about Michelle's husband, and what were your first initial thoughts, and what things were you compelled or wanted to do about the situation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Michelle and I had just been messaging all day. And then I couldn't get hold of her for a little bit, and I was like, something's not right. And she messaged that Anthony passed away, and I just called her, and like, it's the year 2019. People don't call each other. And so she just answered, and I said, like, do you need me there? And she just said, yep. And I was like, okay. And I just hung up. And before I even said anything, my partner at the time, we're not together anymore, but she was packing me an overnight bag and getting the keys ready. And like within 5 minutes, I was in the car and driving. And like Michelle said, I had no idea where I was going. I knew that it was near Drumheller, so at least I kind of knew where that was. And Michelle and I kind of laughed about it. And she was like, you're not going to find it on a map. I'm going to send you a screenshot, and you're going to have to like turn at the old church where the fire station and the corner store are on your left. Like this is like random. Yeah. And then my thought process was just like, okay, I need to be there. Like I don't think I cried until probably I was like on the highway, real safe. But it was just like survival mode. I was just like, my friend needs me. Those kids need me. And she's alone. Like she cannot be alone through this. So I just did it.
Yeah. And Carling is an event planner, and that is like her mode. It's like when something is happening or like crisis is happening, she goes into like event planner mode, and it's like, what do I need? What can I do? Where's my list? Like, how do I fix this? And that's how she just handled. I always feel bad about how I told her, because I'm pretty sure all I messaged her was like, he's dead. Like it was so like, just like one of those really blunt, like, girl, he's gone. Like I need you. And I mean, Carling knew him our whole relationship. Like she met him when I met him. So
yeah,
he was her
I
friend.
almost dated him. I'm surprised you didn't say that, Michelle.
She had a crush on him, and I almost ended our friendship over it. So
like I had a closeted lesbian needing to be heterosexual crush on him.
And
I was like, oh, everyone thinks he's cute. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll be in love with this guy. Only for like a week. And then I was like, no, I can't do it.
So my question is, did the funeral have a taco truck? Because Carling was like, all right, let's get this. We'll have balloons, we'll have flowers, we'll have a clown, we'll have a taco truck. This is the best funeral of all time.
Honestly, the funeral was a long Catholic service. It was.
Yeah, this is where I don't shine. Same with your wedding. Like I was the maid of honor at her wedding, and it was a Catholic mass, and I didn't know what to do or where to go, like at all. And so same with the funeral. I sort of just like stayed in the background, and then I drove your kiddos because you were in the hearse. Is that what it's called? A hearse? Yeah. Yeah, and I just like, well, I don't know.
I wasn't in the hearse because he was in the hearse. I was in like the limo.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you had to like sit in the car and the hearse is like in the back seat.
Oh, no.
That is what I thought.
But then I was like, oh. I like had to. They're like,
yeah, that was what you do.
The funeral was a very long Catholic mass, and if I could do it over again, which would be traumatic and terrible, and I wouldn't do it that way.
Taco truck
next time. I think we're on to something. The next funeral we're all at, I'm bringing tacos.
So I love that. I mean, I don't love that you guys have both had trauma, but I do love that you have different traumas so that you can address multiple areas of this stuff with your podcast. So what have you guys learned together going through being podcasters, interviewing people? Like, what are some of the most fascinating things that you find out that may have surprised you?
I think it was refreshing for me to see that there's people as twisted as us and that go through these like horrific things and that are so funny, and they can just like put out jokes. And, like we've interviewed people about some like really traumatic things. There was a girl, Natalie, who was in a bonfire accident at 17 and burned most of her body, and like she was making jokes about how much hairspray was in her hair because she didn't want to wash it that night, and that made her like more flammable. And like, yeah, you're just like, oh my God, but it's so refreshing because it makes you feel like, I don't know, less weird about the types of jokes and laughter you use about your own trauma.
Mm-hmm. I find like I connect obviously with the widows, people who've lost their partners, because you only know your experience the way it happened unless you talk to other people, right? So when you start hearing other widows and how they reacted to their partner's death, or how they are coping now, or, we interviewed a woman who our stories were very parallel, and it was so almost like comforting to know that someone else went through a similar thing to me, and we're both okay, and we're both still here. And then also when you look at the grieving process, how differently people grieve, how, some people who have lost a partner are already dating or remarried, and then like myself, I'm never marrying another person for as long as I live. It's just the grieving process is so different. And also you just kind of learn how to accept everyone's way of grieving. Like you never judge the way that somebody grieves, because you never know how you're going to act until it happens to you. Yeah, 100%. Yes. I think I can compare myself a lot to other widows online, and it can be detrimental to my mental health, because I see, they've got a foundation, or they have, they seem so together and their kids are happy, or, everyone's okay. That's not the case. That's not the case. That's the social media, filter over their lives. And so talking to a widow about how they're really doing and how their reality really is, does make you feel like, okay, like this is normal. Also just like being mad at your spouse for dying. Like I want to talk to someone else who's just like pissed off that their husband's dead, and that now they're left like with all these kids and they have to make all the choices and be responsible for everything. And, I had to go back to work, and I'm working 2 jobs now because I'm the only one, and there was no will and there was no life insurance. And it's just like, I'm just mad, too. And it feels refreshing when other people are just like pissed off at their spouse for dying.
It's so funny.
You and Anita need to hang out every day because you guys sound like you have similar stories, sort of.
I literally like flip off the sky. Everyone, like when I'm going crazy with the kids, I'm just like, fuck, like I can't.
Carling, I have a question. So I volunteer for some LGBTQ nonprofits, and so I've been trying to learn more about what it's like for people that have had trauma, maybe closeted trauma, those of us that are like in our 30s, 40s, like people living like, all the way through the 90s where it wasn't as typical to talk about. There were not people on TV that were presented as in that community. And now it's more common. And so it's a different experience for kids, although it is still difficult. I've read a statistic that from ages 12 to 22, or like 12 years old is usually about when a child knows that they are LGBTQ plus, and often they keep that with them until they are 22. So they have like a secret, quote, secret that they know. And as a result of that, that's heavy trauma for them. And in addition to that, I think it was surprising to learn, at least for me, that somebody in the LGBTQ plus community continually has to come out over and over and over and over for the rest of their life. Have you found that to be true? And are you finding that you are having recurring trauma as a result of that now at your age?
Oh man, I have so much to say on this topic, and it like brings in Michelle and her kids too. Yeah. Like I think the big thing that Michelle and I talk about a lot is representation and language. And when I was 12, 14, 16, my only representation of the queer community was Jerry Springer, maybe Maury Povich. And like, it was really scandalized and violent. And it was just not, that was not, I couldn't identify with that. And so I can think back to being, 5, 6, 7 and having crushes on girls, but not having the language to identify that. And so I would just mirror behavior of my like heterosexual counterparts. Like I'd be like, oh yeah, that guy is cute. Like how everybody thought Anthony was cute. And I was like, yeah, he is cute. He's so cute. But like in the 90s, he had like frosted tips, baggy jeans, blonde, very cute, and then, they're just like, it just wasn't talked about. And I think when I came out the second time, I just decided for myself that I was going to be the representation that I didn't have. And so it's really important. Well, first of all, I had really long hair. I wore a ton of makeup. I wore dresses and skirts. And then I went to the hairdresser one day because I was sick of having to come out all the time because I was very straight presenting. And, when I went to the doctor, they would be like, oh, well, does your husband, does your boyfriend? I'd be like, oh, girlfriend. Yeah. Or if I went to even the pharmacy, like my partner and I were on each other's health benefits, and they kept saying husband. And I was like, no, like, it's not my husband. It's my partner. It's a girl. Like, so you're just like, or when you start a new job and, they say, do you have a husband? It's just the language that you use. And so then you're just, like you said, coming out every day in these little micro ways, and it's exhausting. And so I went to the hairdresser one day and I said, like, give me the gayest cut And he was like, okay. And he was this like big gay guy. And I got like an undercut, and it was a side thing. And it was a whole thing. I stopped wearing as much makeup. I realized that the only reason I wear skirts, dresses, and heels is because that was the straight agenda that was put on me, like by society. And so I was like, ugh, like, I'm not going to wear that anymore. I feel really awkward and uncomfortable. And so now I try to like present more queer, I guess. And then, you know, in terms of like, as it relates to like Michelle and her kids and my other, I call them nibblings. Not very many people know, but nibblings is the gender neutral term for nieces and nephews. So I have a couple of nibblings that identify as non-binary, and they use they, them pronouns. And so I have, you know, I've got 11 nibblings, and I want to be the representation that I didn't have, because out of 11, the chance that at least one of them are going to be not straight and cisgendered is very high. And I want them to just have a resource and a reference point and a, you know, just the representation. Like, that's what it is. And yeah.
Well, and even Carling has taught me to like how to change my language. You know, I try to do more gender neutral language now. I'll say partner, I'll say, you know, instead of saying like husband, wife, I'll say partner, like things like that, or spouse, because it just, we have to, our language is more inclusive, right? And especially with my children. If my children are part of the LGBTQ plus community, I want them to feel like they're supported in our house. And I grew up in a very Catholic household. So did my husband. And we never talked about that kind of stuff. And we never, you know, gay people were bad. And if my dad saw someone who was gay on TV, he would turn it off. And I never want my kids to feel that way, because if I was gay in my household and I saw those things happening, that would crush me. And I don't want my kids to ever experience that. And Carling has taught us to just change our language and to just be more inclusive. So I think that's amazing.
It's interesting that you bring up language, because as we have started our podcast, I mean, both Anita and I were married to our husbands. And so that's how, you know, the first however many episodes, that's how we would talk about it. Like, hey, if your spouse has died, da, da, da. And then as we go along, we realize, there are more people that were maybe not married that lost their person. And that's, of course, that's valid. So it was just kind of something that we had to figure out how to say. Your partner died, you know, has died. So, and isn't it so interesting that some people think that the piece of paper denotes the amount of grief that one should feel?
Yeah.
My husband and I were married almost 2 years, but then we have people who were maybe together for 15 and never got married. And so it's been an interesting thing for us as hosts of, you know, of our podcast to like interview people in different situations and realize like vocabulary is actually very important, whether or not you think it is.
It is.
Did you guys start your podcast as a form of therapy for yourselves?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Whether or not, I think we did intend it. Like when we thought, we should tell our stories and interview people with stories. I just don't think we anticipated the amount of like release or like validation. Yeah.
It's so funny because we had people listen and they're like, I don't know how you can listen to these stories of like parents talking about their children dying or, you know, accidents and things like that. And it's like, it's awful. And we cry and it's so hard to listen to. But again, it just kind of bonds you to that person. Like they've gone through, like before I lost my husband, I had friends who lost their children. And I remember thinking like, how are they going to survive? How are they going to get up and keep going? And they did. And they were still alive and they were still, you know, having more children and they were going back to work and they were doing all these things that seemed so impossible. And that when I lost my husband, I remembered those situations and I remembered how they handled it and how they could still breathe and they could still keep going. And so I think listening to these stories it's just so important to see, like, you can go through the worst thing that has ever happened to you and you can still get up and you can still keep moving forward, and you never forget what happened, you never lose what happened to you. It will always be a part of you and it will always be a damaged piece of you, but you can still keep going. And it's so comforting to see that. And I think that's one of the things that we really wanted our listeners to know, that people can go through like actual like hell and they're still alive.
I also think it's really powerful to show the ugly parts of it too, because Mel and I talk about this all the time. The middle is where it's happening. People are really interested in the story and then the how you're okay at the end. And it's like, there's this whole part where things are not okay and it's really not pretty. And
yeah,
we skip that a lot, especially in social media and the movies.
After losing my husband, I made a point to post the bad. Like, I posted that I can't get out of bed and I can't, I'm struggling, I'm depressed, I have anxiety, I am drowning. Like, I wanted to post those things so people knew that it wasn't, just because I was, smiling in a picture, I'm not okay, and I think that that's important to share those things. Like, you need to share with your people when you are drowning. And I suck at asking for help. I really do. And I suck at accepting help. But it's something that I've learned that I need to do. And if somebody calls me and says, like, do you need me to come over? I have to just say yes. Like, I have to just say yes because I need it.
You said it's been 2 years, like 2.5 years since your husband died?
Yeah.
So you're in the middle and you're in the muck right now.
Yeah.
Now, Carling, I know that since you didn't have a partner death, it's a little bit different, but you've had trauma and you've had abuse and you've had what we've talked about previously. It might be a little bit, I guess it's not more difficult to say like where the middle is and where it's not, but would you consider yourself middle, post-middle? Like, where are you at in your journey?
I think, well, whether it's healthy or not, I think when Anthony died, I was able to sort of like shut off what I was going through and just like put my focus on that. I think it's mostly over. I mean, the day I got divorced, I threw a divorce party. Highly recommend. It was amazing.
So fun.
It was so fun. But it took me 10 years to get a divorce because he was in jail and he wasn't cooperating and he was busy stalking me and like all those things. And so I think that was really like a big closure of that chapter. And even though it's always sort of like on my mind and it's always a possibility that like, I don't know, I could be walking down the street and die from him, or I don't know, like anything. I think most of his stuff is like sleuthy, but I think I'm mostly able to put it aside. It like doesn't occupy more of my time than it needs to.
Can we talk about 10 years of like looking around your shoulder?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's like hypervigilance, like trauma stuff.
She still has to be careful. I mean, I live in the same town as this person. And so when she's out here, there are certain places that she won't go, certain stores that she won't go into because you never know. He tortured her for that long.
Yeah. And he did this cute thing where he would call me from a payphone but not say who it was. So the police couldn't prove it was him. And just like promise to never leave me alone until I die.
Wow. So he's like Golden State Killer.
Yeah. Like that's just like always in my head. Yeah. And he was like diagnosed by a psychiatrist as antisocial personality disorder. So he's at a moderate to high risk of reoffending, whether it's with me or another victim, like, yeah, it's a real good time. I told you, I don't just like do little things. I was going to marry a man and I was going to find the worst one. And I did.
And you did.
This is what I want to know. Since you had your divorce party and then Anthony died soon after, do you think that your divorce party killed him?
He was like, oh God, she's having way too much fun at this divorce party.
No, her divorce party was so fun. We got to throw axes, and I realized that I'm actually really good at it. And I think it's going to be like my new thing to just throw axes.
I think you're going to be Carling's bodyguard.
Yeah. I'm going to get you an axe on your hip, and you just come with me everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
The way that Carling and I work too is that we both struggle with anxiety. We both struggle with depression, ADHD, we're a mess, but somehow we aren't a mess at the same time. Most of the time, like we take turns. So if she's having a hard time, I'm feeling okay and I can help her. And if I'm having a hard time, she's feeling okay and she can help me. So it kind of works out that there are times where she comes over to my house and I'm just like, no, girl, I can't do it. And she's like, all right, I got this. Like,
do you think that your relationship has gotten more close since your husband died?
We call ourselves platonic soulmates.
Yeah.
Do you know what Mel and I call each other? Widow wives.
Nice. I don't know if this is too dark, but like, I sure do wish I was a widow in my situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
I've heard that from other people.
Then we really would have been widow wives. Her dear kids asked her, like the other day, you were really, really sick, and your oldest called me and was like, Mom's not feeling good. I don't know what to do. And I was like, I'll be right there. So I drove over there. And then I don't know how it got brought up, but I walked into the room and you were like, the kids just asked me if I was gay, if you and I would be dating. And we were like, I don't know. I don't think so.
That's a complicated one.
Yeah.
We think it's funny when we tell people that because they don't know what to make of that information. And Mel's had this very strange experience where after her husband died, she started dyeing her hair. And then people started asking her if, because her husband died, she was a lesbian. And she's like, what?
Oh.
To be fair, it was rainbow. But I was like, what? I just put dye on my hair. I can't have rainbow and be straight. What's wrong with you? I'm here on the planet to cause people to look at themselves and their biases.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah. I do get asked a lot, not as much anymore. But like people who knew me when I was married to a man, they'll be like, oh, like you're just gay because you had one bad experience. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like people don't, it's not a choice. Like you just are or you're not. And yeah, I think it's almost exclusively men that say that to me. I think there's like a threatened level, like, oh, one bad egg spoiled the bunch.
Plus, to call that a bad experience, I'm doing that in quotation marks. Like a bad experience is getting like a hair in your salad, you know? This is a different situation.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned that when you interview your guests, you like to talk about how they were getting through their hard times. So we would like to ask you guys the same things. So we'll start with you, Carling. What helps you when you're going through a rough time?
Not to be dorky, but Michelle.
Aww.
I know. Even like I was really sad the other day. So she was like, what's wrong? And I just sent her a series of gifts that were like, I'm a loser. I'm a failure. I'm no good. And she was like, don't talk about my friend like that. And yeah, I really do think it's like the people you surround yourself with and finding the people. I really have a hard time connecting with people when they want to like get deep into my trauma or grief and like cry about it. Like that makes me uncomfortable. I want to like make jokes about it. And so finding the people that can connect with you in a way that like, feels good to you, is the thing that I think I did.
Michelle.
Yeah, a lot of laughter.
You're still in the thick of it.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm definitely not.
Right now in your, from 2.5 years out,
Mm-hmm.
it is like the squishy, gross time, like the muck. So it's going to be different than like 7 years from now, But how are you navigating the ups and downs of that? What's been helpful or not helpful?
One of the things that was really helpful, I actually went on a griefcation. I booked a hotel for 2 days and I went there because the way I grieve or the way I don't grieve is I avoid. So instead of like really dealing with my issues, I constantly have like a podcast in my ear or something. So the thoughts don't come in and really get at me. But I kind of just made myself go to this hotel and like listen to the grief podcasts and listen to the grief audiobooks and watch the TED Talks and kind of like immerse myself in it. Because I hadn't processed death. I still haven't. So that was a really good, I don't know, just kind of way to force myself to kind of deal with it all. I go to therapy. I'm big therapy advocates. We love therapy and just laughter. Honestly, I'm the same as Carling. Like, I don't want, if I am not down, I don't want to be brought down. I want to be able to, talk about it, but we can laugh about it. We can talk about how hard it is, but I don't want to be brought down into this like despair, when I'm not in that mood. And I keep myself busy a lot to kind of avoid the reality of everything.
You guys are amazing. We give you many props. We have a very, very important question for you. Mel.
You want me to ask it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm honored. How about I ask today. Carling and you ask Michelle?
Oh my God.
It's supposed to be a little scary. You're supposed to feel a little nervous right now.
We need reverence for this moment. Okay, Carling, what is your favorite cheese?
Oh God, you know what? It's Gouda, 100%. Or no, ooh, okay, because
that's not 100%.
No, because today I was at the store and I was like, I really want some Gouda, and I couldn't find any. But you know what? I don't know. A lot of people know is halloumi.
What's that?
It's like HALLOUMI or something, and it's like a frying cheese, and you cut it up and you fry it on a frying pan or the grill. And it just is salty and chewy, and it's real good.
Let's get some, Mel.
If we come to Canada someday, maybe when the borders are open, which maybe it will be never, but maybe someday, will you make it for us?
Yeah, I will grill you up some halloumi.
All right, Michelle, it's your turn. What is the square root of 539?
You asked a widowed mom that? You're a jerk.
What is your favorite cheese?
My favorite cheese is feta cheese. I am a salty gal, and so I like the salty cheese with some like dressing and cucumbers, and yeah, I'm all about that.
Love it. Okay, you guys have passed the test.
Yay! We can be friends.
Congratulations.
Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much.
You guys are the best.
Tell us where people can find your podcast.
Yeah, our big thing is social media. So we're on Instagram at I did not sign up for this .podcast. And then anywhere you get your podcasts, you will find I did not sign up for this.
We hope everybody who's listening has enjoyed today's podcast. Make sure you go and check out Michelle and Carling's podcast and also their social media. If you want to keep the podcast going, make sure to check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN. If you want to send us for tacos,
it's buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
Also, make sure to join the Widow Wives Club if you happen to be a widow, widower, or somebody who has lost their partner on Facebook. And until we talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Carling.
We're just two young widows, another young widow with way too many kids, and her support human. And we're all just trying to figure out, widow we do now.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep. Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys. Such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.